Hey guys, welcome back to another video. A lot has been happening in the past couple of days. Yesterday we had the deputy head of the political bureau of Hamas, Saleh al-Aruri, assassinated alongside several other figures in Hamas in Al-Dahiya al-Janubiyya, the southern suburb of Beirut, Hezbollah stronghold. And today we had a massive terrorist attack against Iran in Kerman, against civilians who were commemorating the loss of Qasem Soleimani 4 years ago. So the first thing I want to mention here, and it's very important to mention this, where is the condemnation? Where is the outrage? 103 people were killed in 2 side bombs indiscriminately. Civilians, normal people like you and me, they were killed, assassinated in an actual terrorist attack, as in targeting civilians only. Where is the outrage on mainstream media? So hold on a second. When Israel told you what happened on the 7th of October, you bought the Israeli narrative immediately as if it was already there. Terrorist attack. They were bombed. Kill them. The other parties are terrorists. Where is the outrage? All we hear on mainstream media, 103 dead, a blast, this might spark instability, this might spark instability in the area. Where's the condemnation? When a protester was killed in Iran, that I spoke about previously, a long time ago, by the way, everyone was outraged, right? You called for regime change all of a sudden in Iran. So hold on a second. It's not about innocent lives. It's about the lives that you choose to focus on. It's about the lives that you choose to focus on and that serve your political and corporate interests based on that country. So it isn't about people dying then, is it? You bought the Israeli narrative about the 7th of October, and the lawsuits are piling up now in Israel. I'm going to speak about that in a second. Yet when you had the evidence that contradicts the official Israeli narrative, you didn't retract from calling these actions terrorism and from having or giving the Palestinians a right to self-defense. So where is this with Iran? This just highlights the double standards and the hypocrisy, and people need to be aware of that. Everyone must be aware of that, because every life matters at the end of the day, and you can't take things out of context based on the area you choose. Now, about the act itself, it has Israel written all over it. It has the Mossad written all over it. I don't care who implemented it. It doesn't matter who implemented it. It has Benjamin Netanyahu written all over it. The Mossad belongs to the Prime Minister's office. Benjamin Netanyahu banned the Mossad from speaking, the head of the Mossad from speaking with the defense minister because of his internal feuds, because he wants the Mossad to only be to him, okay? He is facing increased pressure that he's admitting to, and he's trying to find something, a victory sign, to tell his people, I won, because the pressure is piling up. The assassination yesterday and this massive attack in Iran today, they're coming following a coordinated action in Israel against Benjamin Netanyahu. So firstly, you had the Supreme Court cancelling the law of reasonableness that they wanted to pass. Massive outrage from Netanyahu's camp. One member of Otzma Yehudit, the party of Itamar Ben Gvir, Fogel, he was a previous leading figure in Shin Bet. He said after they did it, this Supreme Court, we will be dealing with Hamas and we will deal with Hezbollah and we'll have the Supreme Court as dessert. Imagine that. So they're coming after the Supreme Court in Israel as if they're coming after Hamas. Imagine how they're linking the two, right? Now, a word about the Supreme Court in Israel. The Supreme Court in Israel, although the state was founded on supremacy, but the Supreme Court in Israel had the political power in check to a certain extent. They don't like it that much. But they do things that are in favor of the people sometimes. Okay? Let's put it this way. I'm not trying to portray them as some sort of a statue of liberty or justice here, but this is why they're against them. Because they actually force the government to take action that it doesn't want to do. The government will propose a law, a core law, pass a legislation. The Supreme Court will tell them, based on our judgment, we don't see that fits. You can't go ahead with it. So that's why they want to change it, and that's why Israel was in revolution mode for the past 1.5 years prior to the 7th of October. And what I wanted to say as well, I think I mentioned this yesterday, if this happened on the 6th of October, you would have seen a revolution. So you had this lawsuit, you had another lawsuit on behalf of 42 families who were at the Nova Festival where the massacre happened, where Israel released footage of Apache helicopters shooting at them, right? Blaming the security services in Israel for having prior knowledge in what happened, and they didn't prevent it. This is coming as pressure on Netanyahu. Even America's withdrawal, the US withdrawal from the Mediterranean Sea. He's not following the deadlines that the US put for him, and he's looking for a way out. He wants something they'll say, oh, here's my victory. Saying that, we don't know what the retaliation will be. Everyone was anticipating Hezbollah's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah's speech today. He didn't say anything significant about retaliation. He just reiterated what Hezbollah confirmed yesterday, which was it won't pass without a response and a punishment for Israel. So he's not stating or specifying a time. They are probably seeing the fact that Netanyahu wants to escalate this to an all-out war to save himself or potentially drag the US back again and save himself and his position. Another thing that the Supreme Court cancelled in Israel is the notion that you cannot take off the prime minister, right? Because there were multiple actions against Netanyahu to take him down for corruption charges or whatever. He said, when I'm in a position of power, no one can file something for corruption charges. They took that away. So this is coordinated. It's not like it's not coordinated. People need to understand that. At the same time, we're seeing more withdrawal from Gaza. 6 brigades left Gaza, apart from the reservists. They told you about the reservists. But 6 Israeli brigades left Gaza in the past few days. They're withdrawing from core areas in North Gaza. Not that they had control, but they're taking off their temporary kind of units and troops from there. In Jabalia area and other areas, they're trying to constantly attack Al-Burej refugee camp. Because remember, most of Gaza is refugees. So they're trying to make them refugees again, imagine. But they're failing. And apparently, from the military front, which leads me to the next point, on the ground, we've had reports of 60 coordinated attacks between Sarai al-Quds and Kataib al-Qassam. 60 coordinated attacks. Imagine. Gathering points and locations where the Israeli military is based. And more groups are coming in the battle, like Kataib al-Mujahideen, they're called, one of them, a small group. they declared that they had some actions today, even though they participated from the beginning, but they published videos of their actions in Gaza. And Israel is not seeing any significant accomplishments. So you have them withdrawing and simultaneously carrying out these attacks somehow to try and run away from them, right? But what are you going to do exactly? The Americans said, you need to go into the third phase of the war. Netanyahu's delaying it, right? And now he's trying to increase it as much as possible. But the resistance movements are clearly alert to his attempts. So if they want to do something, obviously it might be in any second, any moment, but it will be their terms and their conditions. They probably want to check what's going to happen in the next few days. If they complete the withdrawal, if the international pressure increases. Because don't forget, today you had Borrell, who's in charge of the, Joseph Borrell, who's in charge of the foreign affairs in the EU. He said that we must enforce a solution between Israel and the Palestinians, because the past 30 years showed us that they can't reach an agreement themselves. Well, what have you been doing for the past 30 years? You've been enablers of this apartheid. What did you do exactly? You enabled Israel to get away with murder. They have completely neglected international law and still do to this day, and no action has been taken against them. So what does that say? It's as if a thief is stealing from the same shop and the cop standing outside of the shop isn't doing anything. Well, he's going to continue to steal, is he? Because there are no repercussions. So the international community is increasing the pressure bit by bit. We have more firm statements against Netanyahu. We have statements like this, enforcing a solution. Well, of course you have to enforce a solution, but a solution that will be equal for everyone. Not giving the Palestinians a small neighborhood somewhere with a local authority control, right? But they need to have their historical rights. And that can't be done unless you implement a full democracy between the river to the sea with full rights for everyone in Israel and Palestine. It's as simple as that. You have Israeli professors, Israeli analysts, writers, many articles in Haaretz saying the Zionist dream has ended. So you have people in Israel saying this, not me and you. And that's with all of the censorship. Zionism has failed. We need to find another solution. We clearly haven't been able to reach a political solution with the Palestinians. And the attack on the 7th of October proved that you can't manage the conflict. As a matter of fact, Hamas intended to send them that message. You cannot manage the conflict. You need to find a solution. And a solution cannot be met unless the historical rights, the historical and contemporary rights of the Palestinian people are given to them. And guess what? They are very basic, having the same rights as Israelis. It's as simple as that. If Palestinian people have the same rights as Israeli people do, you solved it. Obviously, you need to deal with the core issue of the problem, the apartheid, the Jewish state thing, right? And you're sorted. What's the problem? Because people want to live at the end of the day. Whether you're Israeli, Jewish, Arab, or Christian, or a follower of no faith, right? People want to live. People want to work. People want to educate their children. They want to have a career. They want to be able to move freely. They want to be able to build a house. Very basic things that the Palestinians, between the river and the sea, that Israel controls de facto, do not enjoy. The Palestinians of Gaza have been stuck in an open-air prison for 17 years. In the West Bank, you go through 5 checkpoints to cross a kilometer in some instances. A 15-minute journey can take you 5 hours. That's not a normal daily life. People have the right to move freely. People have a right to work. People have a right to travel. It's simple. And many people across the world weren't aware of the day-to-day reality of the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, particularly when it comes to these things, deprived of basic liberties. So in a way, I'm glad that there's a talk from the EU about an enforcement of a solution, but everyone needs to be careful here. What kind of a solution are we looking for? We don't want a temporary solution. We don't want a repeat of the same thing. One of the reasons that motivated me to write my book about the one-state solution 2 years ago is the fact that I saw this being repeated constantly. Escalation, war, death, status quo. Escalation, war, death, status quo. Apartheid remains. Racism remains and increases. Extremism increases. You don't deal with such a situation by living with it. You need to destroy the rotten core, the rotten supremacist apartheid core, which is what Israel has been built upon, whether they like it or not. If you are willing to do it, and if you took your armies, the United States armies, the British army, the NATO, you took your armies for countries that did nothing to you, like Iraq, for a regime change. You destroyed the country, killed over 1 million people for corporate reasons. So you can gather armies and put a pressure on a country, right? If they commit genocide. Why don't you put the same pressure on that government? And it doesn't have to be an all-out war. It doesn't have to include bloodshed. Because Israel relies on American support. Israel relies on US aid. Israel relies on US money. So if they know the tap is closed and that's it, this apartheid dream has ended, you've clearly failed, you haven't been able to reach a solution, that's it. Enforce a real democratic solution. Isn't that what you said that you were instilling in Iraq and Afghanistan, democracy? Well, how about actually implement it? How about actually implement a democracy with freedom and equal rights? All of the slogans that you bang on about 24/7? How about you actually implement them when they're necessary and where they're necessary? And what more area is it necessary in than in Palestine now? So these were the things that I wanted to talk to you about today, guys. As usual, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Take care.